What the hell's going on here? Um, Alright, one moment here, sorry guys. Hmm. Um, do- the hell, man? Hey Kiplet, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing alright. Just getting set up here. But yeah, I thought I'd try because I live in Australia, so usually I would stream in the evenings my time. But I kind of thought I should start streaming at different time periods to kind of like find out what the best time is for everyone in the community, so I can get more people watching and interested, and be able to like also, yeah, just answer questions and stuff that people might have. Super early, yeah. Well, it's 10 a.m. for me here. And yeah, as I was just saying, I'm just trying to find different times throughout the day to stream. That would be so more people can catch the stream and hopefully try to like build up the stream viewership a little bit because everything helps with promoting the project and developing the game. 7 a.m. in Indonesia. Damn. Usual schedule's way too early for me. It's like 4 or 5 a.m. Yeah, see, yeah, it's pretty bad. I pretty much was, like, I was messing around looking at different time zones. And, like, 6 p.m. for me, which is the time I was usually streaming, is like midnight to 1 a.m. already over in America. I can't remember which coast. But yeah, I thought I'd just try different stream period, different time zones, see what works for people. I was about to start stream, and then I ended up getting a job dumped on me, so I'm trying to like finish up something at the moment. So sorry about that. Sorry about not being as responsive. Someone bought a new Samsung tablet and they want all their data transferred from their old one to their new one. So now I'm trying to set that up, but the fucking cables. Well, the old one is so fucking old, it doesn't even know the software exists to transfer between devices. So I'm trying to like force it to transfer data. Oh, here we go. It started. Okay. That was really fucking tedious. Alright, I think I'm good now. But yeah, I don't know how long I'll stream today, but the idea is in general I want to do more streams, longer streams, and kind of just try to do this more as like a full-time thing, if possible, see how it goes. Considering I'm kind of like just sitting here building on the project anyway, I might as well stream development, and it could be fun and interesting. And it lets people kind of like see what's going on behind the scenes. They can ask questions about anything, and I can happy to answer. I'm pretty open about what's going on. Also, just having people to talk to while you're doing it's also fun as well. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about the games or anything, I'm more than happy to answer. Let's make sure I'm set up here. Um, got all my folders open for the project. Got my documents. Got Obsidian. Cool. Oh, fuck's sake. What are your inspirations for the game? Like, which game inspired you to make NTR good? Cyberpunk was my initial inspiration. I fucking hated that game on release. It was so buggy and such a mess, and was not exactly what was initially promised. If anyone remembers all the different game dev panels they did going back to like the fucking early 2000s. So the initial inspiration for me to make a hentai game was how disappointed I was with Cyberpunk on release. And I was thinking to myself, like, I can make a game. Obviously, there's a lot more going on. So kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like when I first started thinking about like making a game. And it also kind of like happened around the same time I've happened to be learning of the existence of these hentai games that existed because I never really played them before. I played like some Flash games here and there over the years, but otherwise I didn't know how many games there were and that there was such a big community for them. And then I kind of like played a few of like the generic like harem ones made in Koikatsu or Honey Select, and they were like whatever. But then I came across a few ones that were actually like pretty good and had like interesting stories, and it kind of like opened my eyes that oh wow, you can actually do a lot with this if you really do try. Like obviously the first like big one that stood out to me was Milky City, and then you've got like Summertime Saga, Tappy Tales, all those types of games where it feels like there's a lot more. I would as well. Summertime, Summertime Saga and Taffy Tales kind of stand out to me as like the ones with the most effort in them, the most going on. So as far as like hentai games, that would be like the initial inspirations for like thinking, oh, you can actually put a bit more effort into this, into the writing and the characters. Um, as for, so yeah, I guess I also went through a very large process of trying like what exactly I was gonna make because obviously I'm kind of like I don't have like a particular like favorite genre. I wouldn't even say NCR is like a favorite genre of mine. It's more like I had a story in mind and kind of retrofitted or kind of like tried to figure out what kind of themes would fit best with it. So going back to the cyberpunk idea, my initial inspiration, well, my initial like kind of like game I wanted to make was like a dystopian future cyberpunk type game. And I had like a bunch of different iterations of that. One was like it was a more like Dome world where it's like a dating sim that takes place in the setting. One was much more focused where you like work in a gym or something like that, and there'd be a smaller cast of characters. And then I tried using all sorts of different software like different like art styles. Like I used like Daz 3D, I used Koikatsu, Honey Select, and I couldn't really get. They just nothing really looked great to me. Sorry. So yeah, nothing really looked great to me that stood out. Like I couldn't get something cohesive to work that I liked because all like Kukatsu and all that kind of stuff. They obviously had a lot of tools that allow you to build something quickly, but I couldn't quite pull off what I wanted to do. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I wouldn't say I was like flowing with money, but I was pretty well off and didn't have a lot of debt or bills or anything. So like, well, what if I pay an artist to actually develop the project alongside me? That's how I arrived at the artist I currently have. This game always reminded me of OG Taffy Tales, not gonna lie, quite the experience. Also, I suppose it's no surprise sometimes Saga inspired quite a lot of new games. Yeah. Well, Summertime Saga I think was the first one I had played. And they're kind of like, oh, there's like a lot more going on as far as like I wouldn't say quite necessarily gameplay, but the idea of like there's a day-night cycle, you move around to different locations, you meet different characters, you got branching storylines. Some Taffy Tales to me kind of like as far as like I guess the eroticness of it was a lot more interesting, and the kind of like more descriptive narration kind of like helped build up the scenes a lot. Whereas Summertime Saga was lot more plain as far as the dialogue went. My favorite, not safe for a game, probably would have to be Tappy Tales. Um, the other direction was also is because, as I said, I had a lot of different projects going on, before, like little starting projects, thinking kind of like feeling my way to what exactly I wanted to do. Another thing I was really invested in for many years was Chinese light novels. So I've read fucking thousands of these Chinese light novels. They're all like pretty generic, have the same kind of stories. There's a lot of tropes. They're kind of like really bad, a lot of them, but there's obviously some really great ones. So that was kind of like my initial inspiration for the story. Was like, what if? Plus, also isekai anime is obviously very popular, and I always like thought it was kind of cringe how you're a loser in your first life, and then you like reincarnate, and then somehow you just like you're still dumb as bricks, but you just trip over big titty elf girls and build a harem. And it's like, if you're a loser and knew nothing, didn't know how to talk to people in your first life, wouldn't you just continue being that in your second life, providing you don't reincarnate into like the body of like a noble or something? So that was kind of the impetus for this game was like, well, what if you went the other way? What if you were a loser in the second world still, like in your reincarnation? And then once I kind of started like going with that idea, I kind of thought about what like kind of hentai genres and stuff might fit towards that, and that's how I kind of like come to learn about the Netorare genre. I was like, huh, that actually kind of fits pretty well, doesn't it? So that's kind of like how that all kind of got started in that direction. And then the other kind of like parallel thing going on was I always thought the gameplay sucked dick in a lot of these games, or there just wasn't any gameplay. And then I happened to play the game Karen's Prison, and it's like, oh, you can actually have interesting lewd combat. Like there is a way you can do that. So once I kind of had those two pieces together, like you can have like a heavy narration style, developing the characters and the story, slow burn, and then you can also have an interesting kind of like lewd battle combat system. Joining those together is kind of like what really got the project going, and is what I'm trying to do. And having the two systems feed into each other, so that because obviously one of the problems would be that with the combat is that if you just keep spamming the combat over and over and over again, you'll build up the corruptions to max. And then as far as combat goes, Saphira, who's the main heroine right now, you can take into combat. She'd be like more than happy to do fucking gangbangs with dragons and ogres and all sorts of shit. But then as far as like the main story goes, she would still be too scared to like touch the protagonist's hand or something. So we had to come up with a system to balance the two, so that you basically have corruptions for the different body parts, like you have in Karen's Prison and Sari Reclaimed. That's another one that's also really good. I would say I prefer Sari Reclaimed over Karen's Prison, but Sari Reclaimed kind of got abandoned, which is a shame. But that was also a big inspiration for the combat stuff. So basically, ultimately, what I would like to do with this project is basically merge together Sari Reclaimed and Taffy Tales. Obviously, doing my own unique story, characters, all that kind of stuff. But taking those two different like parallel gameplay processes and trying to merge them. So in those types of combat games, you basically have the different body parts, and you have like a max threshold and like a current threshold. So like the max might be 200. Once you unlock 200, you can do literally everything. But you might start the game at like 25 or 35 or something. And that only goes to groping or hand touching or something like that. And the idea is as you keep repeating the process, eventually you increase the thresholds. So our idea was that the thresholds are increased through the main story. So as soon as you basically, when we do get this new build out that remedies a lot of the current problems with the game and has a lot more better combat system in it, you could do like the prologue and then kind of like just do whatever you want after that. You could just take Saphira off into doing dungeons on the other side of the map and there'd be no problem. But naturally, you would be gated with how far you could really go with the combat because of how the thresholds are set. So the idea is you would have to continue the main story to increase the thresholds. Like there'd be major scenes in the main story in the routes for the particular characters to move their threshold to the next level so you can do more loot stuff with them. And that way it kind of like they keep each other in check and then one doesn't just outscale the other. Yeah, I probably should just get away with this be right back screen now. Sorry, 1 second. I've been trying to like look after this fucking, well, I already said look after these tablets, but I think they're good now, so I can leave them alone. Where are we here? I heard Karen's Prison is super grindy though. Yeah, so grind is one thing naturally we have to be wary of. The purpose is to have, basically the way I'm looking at it is having the lewd combat is meant to be like a nice little lewd addition to enjoy the combat. It's not meant to be there to make it tedious and slow. So what our current idea, which still obviously have to test all this, And as we test on and iterate on it, it'll get better. And with player feedback, we'll understand if we're going in the right direction. But in Cameron's prison, basically all the loot stuff is kind of forced on you. So what we were thinking of doing, this is just theory right now, was we have to still mess with it. But the idea is that the player would have like a button that's like called like inspect, or it'd probably just be called inspect. And then basically say the players had their turn, Saphira's had their turn, it's the enemy's turn. Saphira is out of mana, so she's vulnerable. The bandit can then grab Saphira, and they're basically then tied together on the back end, and it looks like the bandit's grabbing Saphira. So the protagonist, this also ties into having the combat work for the NTR and the NTS side as well. So basically, trying to make the combat work so it makes sense from both POVs at the same time. So like if Saphira is being grabbed by a bandit, then NTR obviously trying to free her. Whereas NTS, you might actually make use of her to take care of the bandit, to sneak attack him or something. But either way, the idea is instead of like having a loot section be forced on you straight away, you would have the inspect button, so you could you could inspect Saphira, and then you would get like the scene or the well, I guess it would be considered like a mini scene of what's going on between Saphira and the bandit. And the idea behind that is so instead of having to like stop the combat every half a second for like a loot thing to happen on screen, the player can opt into seeing them. Maybe what we would do is the first time a new thing happens, it plays automatically and you're forced to see it. But for repeats, you would have to you can opt into seeing them if you want. But if you've seen it 100 times already and you don't want to keep grinding it out, you could just kill the enemy or continue the battle. That's kind of like the current thought process. Get a sneaky crit hit on an enemy who's lusting after X-Heron. Yeah, that's kind of like the idea. The idea obviously is like NCR is meant to be like trying to protect the heroines, keep them from harm, but naturally harm happens to them. NTS is more like taking advantage of the heroines to either get them to flash the enemy or distract the enemy, or even like let the enemy grope them a bit so you can get like a big attack on the enemy to kill them, that kind of stuff. Try to do the combat system in a way that it can be approached from both playstyles, both routes, and not have to design completely unique systems for both routes, because that would make it much more complex. Okay, I have my docs open, I have my notepad, I have Obsidian, I have my maps open, I've got chat open. I need my stream manager. Stream manager. Alright, I think I'm good. Alright, let's fix the screen up. Cool. That took a little longer than expected to get set up, but we're good now. I don't really have anything crazy planned for the stream. It's pretty much just as I've been doing, just going over development, working on little bits and pieces here while I wait for the other team members to finish their tasks. And then usually what happens is throughout the first couple of weeks of the month, they're all doing their little bits and pieces and they start compiling all their stuff. And then towards the end of the month, I'm implementing everything into the project. So I'm kind of like in a period of like waiting right now for stuff to get done, and then just working on lore and world building, planning routes and stuff in the background. Can you guys hear me all right? Because my mic settings keep changing, so I don't know if it's always at a good level. Yes, I'm alright. So Saw the other day in the server that you plan to add more interactions with enemies. Which enemies expect in the future? Um, I wouldn't say there's like a hard limit on what types of enemies I'm willing to include. It's more like I'm kind of just following the natural progression of where the player is and what enemies would he be expected. So the current enemies I have in mind is you would have basically like 3 or 4 different levels of the vermin or like the rat people, going from like the little tiny rat people in the sewer to the rat people that are like more evolved, roaming through the caves. And then you would have like a rat king type character that would be like a bit of a boss battle that there would be a quest chain leading to. I kind of like, obviously the rat people are very inspired by like the Skaven and that from Warhammer. So you'd have like a rat ogre as like the rat king kind of thing. Big bulking rat dude. Because of the new rules that have been going around, I'm more hesitant. Well, I never had any plans for like straight up bestiality. Like that was never happening. Or like, dogs and horses and shit. However, there were plans like monsters like dragons and stuff. So and like centaurs and stuff like that. But with the new rules, we have to kind of consider more what is and isn't allowed. It seems that the more you stick to more humanoid type creatures, the safer you are. So that's probably the direction we'll have to go. And there might be some unique stuff here and there. Actually, I think another direction you could take it is basically if the creatures are more humanoid or more alien and more removed from like normal domestic animals, that's probably the safe way to go. So that's probably, yeah. Unfortunately, that is just how it is. So I would say in the future, probably different types. Like in the immediate future, different types of humans, apart from just standard bandits. Various different vermin. There may be some other more humanoid creatures. But there's nothing like a minotaur or something like that. But I'm always open to ideas and suggestions from people and what kind of things we could do. You just have to naturally keep the new rules in mind. Oh no, sorry. What I meant was you probably could get away with centaurs and minotaurs. Basically, the more like humanoid the creatures are, instead of looking like dogs or horses, the more I think you can get away with it. So, like, if you just had a straight up horse, that would be banned. But if you had a centaur, that should probably be fine. Hey, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Hope you're having a good evening, morning. And then also, if you go more the alien direction, so basically, if you had like a dog that's more like, or like a wolf that's more like, made like a lizard type hybrid thing that's more like an alien, like a xenomorph, that could probably be okay. You're just gonna have to stay away from like basic animals, is what I'm getting at the moment. But yeah, no, Seeds of Chaos, Tales of Androgyny. There's a couple of games that just like have straight up like monsters and animals and stuff. There's another game I can't remember off the top of my head that had like actual animals that stayed on Patreon the whole time and hasn't been taken down, so I don't fucking know. But I rather stay play by the rules. Well, it's a combination of playing by the rules and just not being interested in that kind of content as well. Um, yeah. But I don't know if I'm assuming you were aware of the news regarding payment processes and like what happened on Steam and itch.io and all that kind of stuff. We got pretty fucked on itch.io, even though our game doesn't really have anything like that. Like our game's still been delisted, and there's just not much we can do about that. So what our goal is basically, we're kind of working towards. Yeah, I'm aware, but I don't know how far they're going for stuff. What is okay, what isn't. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is it's a little ambiguous in what the rules are. Because as I said, some games get away with it, some games don't. I guess it's just a matter of whether the games get on their radar or not. Um, but what our goal is, and this has kind of been the goal since the start of the year. When I started developing this project, I had no experience coding or doing anything. This is my first project I've ever done. This is my first time ever writing anything, coding anything, trying to put a team together or organize people. I pretty much learned everything as I'm going at once, which meant that the first, I would say, year and two was like a horrendous learning experience where nothing really got done. It's obviously all my own fault, but at the same time, it's the only way I could ever start a project. It's just like something I guess that comes natural with trying to start a project and having no experience in any field. Obviously, I've learned a lot since then, and now I believe we're on the right path. But a result of that time is that the code base or how the game was built wasn't built very good. So what I did at the start of this year is I managed to find an actual developer that's familiar with RPG Maker that can properly code for me on my behalf, and that way I can focus on other aspects. So they've been working on a new build in the background that has a lot of new systems. Some of them have been teased, like the animated busts for characters, the day-night cycle stuff with the fancy sundial stuff going on when you change time periods. NPCs having like schedules where they'll go to the tavern during the evening, they'll go to bed at home, they'll go harvest the crops in the morning, whatever it is, depending on the NPC. And then also just building a better, more stable code base with a lot better performance. So the idea is he's been working on that the whole time, and the goal was that eventually, once he's got all his stuff to a good position, we would just then copy and paste all the code from the current updates being put out onto his build, and that would be the new version of the game. But because of all these new rules going on, we've had a different idea, and that is he's going to stick with his basically his build of the game, keep improving that, and then we're going to slowly implement the scenes into his build, and then we're going to basically have a base version of the game that has no explicit content, and then a patch that would enable the explicit content. And we have to do this because of the new rules on all the stores. So all the stores like itch.io, Steam, GOG, whatever other site or whatever other storefront there is, we would sell the base version of the game with no explicit content. And then there would be a patch players can download from the Discord or the Patreon or wherever is best to put it. The if people are already paying for the game, then the patch would either be free or like whatever the minimal dollar amount is on different sites to access it. And that way players can get all the explicit content very easily. They don't have to worry about getting the patch from some other shady site. They can get it directly from us. And it should be in line with all the new rules for the different payment processes and storefronts. So that's kind of our goal for next year, to try to get the game in some shape or form on all the different storefronts. Kagura game. I know of Kagura games. Um, I don't Kagura games. Is this a developer or a publisher? It's a publisher. You can buy the base game and then you can go to their official page and download the patch that enables all the loot stuff. Yeah, basically want to do something like that. Because that seems to be the safest way to progress. And that way, if I understand that correctly, then it would make sense that we could do some extra explicit stuff that isn't normally allowed in the rules. Because it's all on the patch. That doesn't mean we would go too crazy. There's obviously still limits to what kind of content I want to put in the game, but it's better than nothing doing it that way. A long term goal, once the project is like properly developed and finished, is would be allowing players to mod the game themselves and add their own content or make changes. That would be really cool. To let players mod the game themselves and do what they want. They still have lots of game in Steam with the very kinky shit. Still some of the games get banned. Yeah. I guess because we only have the one project, like we only have the one game that we've been working on the whole time, I can't really risk any problems happening because if this one game gets banned, then we're kind of sunk. So I would rather play it safe and then make sure there's no issues whatsoever. And then we can kind of like just see how the climate is in the future, if things settle down or get worse. If things get worse, then the way we're going should be good in the long run because it means we would have met all the precautions. And then if the rules get laxer in the future, then that's cool too. If we had like a bunch of little projects and one got banned, it obviously wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. But because it's our only project, we have to be a bit more precautious with it. As for what's happening on screen right now, so one of the other areas I've been working on while the other guys are working on the art and whatnot is I've been working on these little in-game books. Another thing, another like I guess goal or something I would like to include is the world building in that is very much inspired by like Elder Scrolls games, how they kind of work, how the NPCs you can talk to them, you learn tidbits about like the location or other characters or what's going on in other regions. I kind of want to do that with my NPCs as well. And I would also like to have in-game books that tell little stories or have like lore or world building or tell you about how some of the systems work that the players can collect and read. So for the meantime, I've kind of been working on some of these in-game books to help kind of like bulk up the lore building and world and give a sense of what's going on if people are interested in reading. And that way, because this stuff is more in the books, it's like an opt-in thing. It's not like shoving it in the player's face, forcing them to read a bunch of shit from an NPC. You got the books there, they can choose to read it if it interests them. If it doesn't interest them, then they can just do the quest and see the scenes. I feel like that's the best approach. And then obviously I would like to have more like in-game smart stories or lewd stories that kind of like use the setting and characters, or rather not specific characters, but like new characters using the races or the locations. And then once that's kind of like built up enough, like there's enough information there, then what I would like is to get people from the community that are interested in writing to write their own little in-game books that can be put in the game as like little smut stories or whatnot. I think that could be pretty cool. And then what I would like to do is basically have that kind of thing going on. Players from the community submit their own little in-game books that are kind of like little smut fan fiction stuff using like the races and the whatnot and the locations and the magic system. And then maybe doing like a little tournament thing every now and then where whichever community member's book gets the most likes or whatever the system is, then the artist would make some artwork for their in-game book or something. Something cool like that for the community. Because I mean, you could. I actually just had a thought just then. Is basically, you could have like a series of books that instead of like you could have a series of books, in-game books, that instead of you reading them like you would a normal book, it's like a memory stone. It's like a memory book. Once you hold it, it kind of like floods your mind with like images, like a video recording of what's transpired. Basically, it brings you into the book. If you kind of like use that as a system, then what we could do even is the artist could actually just draw these scenes like properly, and they could have proper narration that plays as if it's like a scene the player's experiencing, but obviously it's projecting from the book. That could be really cool. Just to get extra scenes in there with extra characters and stuff that are kind of like once-off little scenes. That could be interesting. But yeah, that's like a long-term thing that would be cool to work towards. Naturally, the main focus right now is getting the routes done, finishing up the prologues, getting these routes going, getting the main mechanics out of the way. So one of the in-game books I had here was just like a little guide to like the town that the player's in. Basically just going over a little bit of the history, what the districts are like, notable places, notable people. I had one book that kind of just details a little bit about the different provinces in the world. Got Eldaris, the Sun Elves, Aranea, the Sea Elves, Binteron Isles, the Moon Elves, Mongrelia, the Beast People, Scalen, Beating Mountains, Ashkert Desert, the Akari, Sovavdil, the Sovereigns, well, humans, normal humans. And then there was one for the Guild. It's kind of like outlaying some rules. So that's kind of like what I've been working on. Just little in-game books. Um, there's a couple different things I need to work on as well. I need to continue working on the timeline of events before the game starts. Just to, because I kind of like having the information there, even if it's not 100% set in stone, so I have something to work with. And when the other writer comes on board, because we have another writer that we've recently onboarded, and they're in the process of getting set up, and they will be helping with a lot of the writing going forward. So I need to have some kind of like law bible or law book with all the terms and characters and stuff, and systems to help them with their writing, make it as easy as possible. Um, so I kind of want to continue. Need a new project. Um, I kind of want to work on the timeline stuff a little bit because I had a bit of inspiration recently how I want the timeline stuff to work. I've got like 50 billion different fucking iterations of the cosmology and the timeline, but I haven't really finalized anything yet. So, start writing this. I'll put the old one on the other screen so I can see it somewhere. Got chat on screen. I guess something else you could do with the smart books is gifting them to girls so they can become corrupt. There was ideas like that of giving like one of the subplots I had for Tasha was she was like reading like Tasha, the protagonist's mother, was reading romance novels. So one idea was going to be like the player would swap out her novels with progressively lewder ones. But that could be interesting as like giving the stories I mean, that kind of like plays on the same idea, but like giving the stories to... Because there is meant to be a system for gifting stuff to heroines. Like, the way it currently works is each heroine would have like 3 main stats. They would have their affection, which is how much they currently like the person. They would have their corruption, which is like the limit of what kind of lewd things they would want, they would allow themselves to do. And then lust is like how horny they are, and then what they're willing to do right now. That's kind of like the 3 big gauges for each heroine. So the idea was you could give them gifts to like increase their affection or whatever. But it could also be the case that giving them gifts could also increase their corruption or lust as well, if you give them these types of books. That could be interesting. I really need to get 3 monitors so I can see everything at once. It's too much shit I need to have on my screen at once. So where the fuck was I? Timeline 3 for reals. No idea what this untitled project was for. So I'm not really, I mean, I would say I'm copying Elder Scrolls, but really I'm copying like every fucking cosmology that ever existed ever, which is you start with the void, and then you have 1, and then 1 becomes 2, and 2 becomes 3. Like, it's pretty generic. So, in the beginning, I think that's 16. In the beginning, the original creator, Amoth, emerged from the phantasmal cocoon and unfurled his wings, giving birth to the universe. Universe. And its first inhabitants. Hopefully my typing there's not too loud. Hey, thanks for the follow, I appreciate it. Phantasmal cocoon and its first inhabitants. Okay. The birth of the universe caused the dissociation of the original creators. 3 cosmic emanations. Blank 2 emanations. Now these are kind of like just names for now until I come up with better names, but I gotta have something here at least. Order Yang and Chaos Yin. Chaos Yin. Pretty simple stuff. You have the original creators, like you basically have like the void, and you have like this one original entity. The original entity splits into 2. Usually it's like Yang and Yin, or it's order and chaos, or light and dark. And that's pretty much this. Or in Norse mythology, it's fire and ice. So it's pretty much the same thing. The union between the 2 cosmic emanations split reality or the universe? Split the universe. Split reality. Split reality into the chromatic materia, which basically means like the physical world, like colorful, basically chromatic materia means colorful material, so like the physical world, I guess. And the achromic immateria, which means colorless immaterial. So like the astral world or whatever. Like alternate reality. Maybe matter is a better way of saying it, actually. Into multiple realities. Split matter into multiple realities. The chromatic material and the achromic immaterial. I need a order yang, chaos yin, chromatic materia, achromic immateria. And then, so basically, you have one splits into two, and then usually the two becomes three. Because either they fight each other, or they resonate with each other, or whatever reason. The other thing is, it's probably like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like to have things as detailed and specified as possible. Even if, when it comes to the in-game world and universe, it's not explained to such detail, just for my own peace of mind and being able to know what's really happening, I like to have everything as detailed as possible. But it could be the case, it definitely has to be the case that sometimes it is better to leave gaps in between stuff, not knowing every single thing down to the minutiae, because it allows speculation and ambiguousness of how things came to be. That's kind of like fun for players to explore, and then also for like, yeah, just kind of like the mystery of it. What are your PC specs? Not very good, honestly. I had just got recently this year got a Radeon 6600 XT graphics card. I have a Ryzen 5 3600 CPU. I have 16 gigabytes of 2300 megahertz RAM, or something very low. Because I got fucking memed. I fucking found these RAM sticks that were called Team something 3200. And I was like, oh shit, 3200 megahertz RAM. But no, that's just the name of it. It's called 3200. It's actually like 2400 or something. So I got fucking memed. So I'm missing something? CPU, graphics card, RAM. I think that's it, isn't it? Don't have very great... I mean, my PC is okay. It works for all of the really old games that I play. I don't really play anything too modern. And it works for developing this, so that's probably like the main important thing. It's good enough, actually. I don't know. I think I could play Baldur's Gate 3 fine. I think that's probably the most intense. Oh, Starfield ran okay. The Oblivion remaster did not run very well. Stalker 2 did not run very well. But those games are UE5, so they're like unoptimized as hell. But yeah, I don't really play too many like super duper like newish games generally. It's only that those two particular series were interesting to me. Like I've always played the Stalker, loved the Stalker games, so I wanted to get the second one, but just didn't run very well. And I forgot what the other series. Oh, Baldur's Gate 3. All my friends were playing it, so I was like, fuck it, I'll play it. Actually, Baldur's Gate 3 is the reason why I bought this new graphics card. Because every time I tried to play Baldur's Gate 3 with my old graphics card, which was a Ryzen 570, 580, something 580, my PC kept crashing. The fan stopped working on the GPU, and I think it just kept overheating and died. So I had to replace it, and I haven't really played Baldur's Gate 3 since. Oh no, I launched it once, it worked. Haven't really played it though because my friends fucking took off without me, and I've kind of like lost interest. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really play too many new games. I play like RimWorld or like Civilization 6 or like League of Legends because I fucking hate myself. Same, to be honest, old as gold. Modern Skyrim is my lifetime game. I never really got into Skyrim the way I did the other Elder Scrolls games. Like, I grew up with Morrowind and Daggerfall and Arena. So, like, that was my shit. Playing those growing up. I liked Oblivion. I probably, in the long run, Oblivion probably has the most hours in. Even though I like Morrowind more. I think Oblivion's mods made it a lot more interesting and variable. Like, the variety of content you can do in it. But Skyrim, I kind of like... I played it on a shitty laptop when it first came out. It ran like crap. I did the Dark Brotherhood main storyline. I did the Dark Brotherhood storyline. I did the main storyline, finished the game, and kind of just never really went back. Like, I've tried to pick it up here and there using, like, Wabberjack mod lists. But usually it'll be some mod list that's like 5,000 different fucking plugins and like 10K 80 resolution textures, and it just runs like shit and I give up. So I've never really given Skyrim a second proper go through. One day when I get like a really good computer, I would like to properly play through Skyrim again. I actually jumped into Morrowind quite recently. Aside from the combat, I like the world building and the expand land beyond the island of Vanderfell. Yeah, what Project Tamriel and Open Morrowind or whatever. Tamriel were built. Yeah, I would like to actually do a proper Morrowind playthrough again with all the extended lands and stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Because, yeah, I think out of all the different settings, I really like the lore and the world building in Morrowind. That was obviously a big inspiration for this project. Like, even just the shit I'm writing on my screen right now is a pretty big, is pretty much inspired by, like, how Elder Scrolls cosmology works. Plus, yeah, like Morrowind just had a very unique charm to it that I felt never quite was replicated in any of the other Elder Scrolls games. Like Oblivion felt pretty generic as far as like the like I liked Oblivion, but I think the world is a bit more generic, medieval kind of thing going on. I don't know if I would call Skyrim generic, but it kind of like there was like I felt like the early 2000s was all about like brown shooter games and zombie games. And then like in the maybe the mid to late I don't know exactly what year, but I felt like there was a lot of like Norse mythology games coming out in like the 2010s. Like everything was about Norse mythology. Like you got like Valheim. That was obviously a lot more recent than 2010s, but that was like the next big God of War. That was like the next big setting everyone wanted to do. Viking stuff. You had the Viking show. And then Skyrim was like more like Norse stuff. I've just never been super duper interested in like Norse mythology or that kind of stuff. I've always been really interested in like Egypt, Egyptian like history and Egyptian history and mythology and that kind of stuff. More so than other mythologies. Your game is kind of like Elder Scrolls by NTR on it. I mean, that is kind of like in a way by design, I guess. So, like as I said, I really like the Elder Scrolls games and like the lore, the way they did their world building and stuff like that. So very much the game is inspired by that kind of thing. I would say more inspired by the way they tell their stories through the use of NPCs and like in-game books and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm trying to replicate. Because I don't know if it's like really like the worst thing in the world. Because obviously, one thing I always have to keep in mind is, as cool as it is to have like a really good world building, lore, all that kind of stuff, in a way, players are playing hentai games for a specific thing, and I need to not lose sight of that, even if the other stuff around it interests me a lot more. I think my music just stopped. I was gonna say something else, but now I fucking forgot. Alright, I need to continue on with this a little bit. So you basically have reality, or matter is split into multiple realities, the chromatic materia and the achromatic immateria. So basically the physical world and the astral world. There's also meant to be like a spirit world, I guess. Okay. What am I saying here? The union between the two cosmic emanations split matter into multiple realities, the chromatic materia and the achromatic immateria, and the separation of matter, between separation of matter the separation of matter gives rise to the supernal triumvirate, the numinarchs. The all divine, or the all deity. The mother of all. Okay. So the idea is you have the one splits into two, or yang, or reality and alternate reality, and then there's three entities. Now, the magic system is pretty much made like, I kind of like reverse engineered this because they're retarded, but I started with the magic system of like each magic spell is effectively a rune. So like you channel your energy into the rune and the rune casts a spell. That was kind of like the system for the magic at a very basic level. And then I kind of like realized, oh wait, Norse mythology has runes. And I just remembered I spent the last like 5 minutes kind of like talking about how I'm not a fan of Norse mythology. Well, apparently I'm using it in my game anyway. But in Norse mythology you have the runes. I think it's called the Elder Furthark runes. Elder Furthark. Elder Futhark. I can't fucking pronounce that. So in Norse mythology, you have the runes discovered by Odin. There's 24 runes, and they're made up of 3 sets of 8. So I kind of wanted to copy that in the sense that basically, so you have the original creator that effectively represents all 24 runes. You have order and order. I can't tell if there's a fucking reverb, if there's an echo or not. Echo? Echo? Is there an echo? Echo? Okay, if I'm echoing, sorry, I guess. Echo. Hello. I think my room's echoing. I can't fucking tell. Something's echoing. Hello. Anyway, I'll have to try to ignore it. So in Norse mythology, you have 24 runes. Each rune is separated into 8. So you have three 8s. I forgot what the special meaning behind each 8 is. Anyway, so in my thing here, you got the original creator Amoth, that effectively represents everything and anything, all in one. That's then split into 2, Order Yang, Chaos Yin. I wouldn't know if I'd necessarily separate this into 2 12s. I don't know if that level particularly matters. It's more like when there's the 3. So from the 2, you get 3 entities. And the idea is each of these 3 entities would represent 8. Like one of those sub alphabets of runes. It's like each one represents 8. And then you got the All Divine as the first one, which kind of like represents like more of like a traditional god in mind. You got the primordial deity, which is very much based on like Buddhism. You've got the three supreme ones, or 3 clear ones, or whatever they're called in Buddhism, because Buddhism also uses a similar 1, 2, and then 3 separations. Originally I had Goddess of Origin, but I don't know if I like Goddess of Origin or Mother of All better. Separation Matter gives rise to this Supernal Triumvirate, the Numenarchs, All Divine, Primordial Deity, where the numinous heavens, and the Goddess of Origin. I had another thing attached for what I was trying to do with the goddess idea. Because really it's more like the All Divine or the First God kind of represents like the West, and then like the Primordial Deity represents the East. And I had another thing to another way of describing what the Goddess of Origin was. But ultimately also, each of them represents an 8, or 1/3 of the total runes. So, the Supernal Triumvirate symbolically represents divine world and spirit. From these 3 emanates so in Chinese light novels, and I guess it's Buddhism, everything's kind of separated into 3 realms. You have heaven, earth, and man. So I'm like also again copying that, but I kind of wanted to go just using my own words really. divine world, and the reason I chose spirit instead of man is because I kind of like wanted to represent that there's more than just human as a race. It could be the case that what you could do is when you're writing like in-game lore books from the perspective of different races, maybe each of them would have their own stand-in, like basically standing themselves in for whatever spirit might mean. So like for the humans for the humans, then spirit would just be human, so it'd be divine world human, and then for like the elves, it would be like divine world airy, maybe something like that. But spirit's like a stand-in for whatever that quality is that makes you like a sentient, thinking, and progressive creature, entity, whatever you want to call it. I really have a problem with this. So yeah, so these. Okay, where am I? Also, yeah, by the way, guys, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask at any time. Don't feel like you're interrupting me or anything. More than happy to answer anything. Separation matter gives rise to the supernal triumvirate. So the idea is, I kind of like had already made this like power system stuff here. And kind of like what the initial inspiration was for like the different like paths, the different runes and that. So the idea is each rune ultimately kind of like represents a concept in the universe, like space-time, dream, possession, theft, moon, dark, fate, whatever. I was more so sticking with there being 24, going with like the Norse rune idea. There was 24 like initial or like fundamental runes. And then naturally over time, as the concepts evolve, there's more than just 24. But that's kind of like how it started. So where the fuck am I? Separation of matter gives rise to the supernal triumvirate, the Nimnax, all divine. Goddess of origin. Is there a reason behind the name of the girls, or you just choose them because you like them? I generally kind of like the way it would work is I would kind of like come up with a name, and then I would search that name and try to see if there's any like kind of like hidden, like there's any meanings to that name. And if like the meaning kind of like was either, if I really liked the name, I would probably just keep it no matter what. But if the name kind of like just didn't seem like from the origin or history or meaning didn't match at all, then I would change it. The only exception to that is Estelle or Esther, because she's all about like ice and like ice, snow. But Esther means like star or bright one or shining one, so that kind of wasn't quite right. But I kept that name anyway because I just liked the name. I think Saphira. I might have alternated the spelling, but I'm pretty sure it was like it's like a Middle Eastern or Persian name meaning sapphire or something, or something to do with sapphires. That's really all that came from. There's like I try to have some meaning behind the name to make sure it kind of like matches somewhat to the personality of the character or the general look of the character. But there's also the case that sometimes I just really like the name, so like fuck it, I'll just keep the name. In like the case of Esther or Estelle. Tasha was just like a name I happened to just know. I knew someone that sounded like I knew someone that had the name Tasha like a long time ago. I was like, oh, I kind of like that name, but they're nothing like the Tasha the character. Actually, now that I think about it, I think the name was Tasha, so that was wrong anyway. Saphira. Maybe that could be it. Saphia means pure or sincere. I have like notepad files hidden somewhere on my computer where I've like had these, like I've had like hundreds of names written out, all sorts of variations, and whatever the original version was. So I could probably find that at some point, although it would be hard to find. Because I would have wrote down a little bit about what the original version of the name was, what it's meant to mean, and then that for like Saphira and the other characters. Brian was pretty just generic for the protagonist. Nothing crazy there. There isn't really last names for a lot of the heroines because I kind of wanted to leave it open for now until I figure out what I want to do with them, if it matters. Like Saphira is kind of like more an orphan, so she doesn't have a last name, but naturally she does have a family that will come into the picture later. So I kind of wanted to leave that open. Same as Estelle. Caladria is like, and the idea is there. Caladria and Ferandril. Caladria is like a bastardization of one of the elves from Lord of the Rings. I can't remember which one. I kind of just mess with the spelling. Ferandril is a character. I'm pretty sure it was like a bastardization of a character from WoW, one of the night elves or something. But what I did like about I can't remember if it's Warhammer or maybe it was Lord of the Rings. But sorry, one second. I really don't know why there's a fucking echo in my mic, or my headset. In Lord of the Rings, hello. That's really driving me crazy, the echo. Give me 1 second. I need to try to see if I can fix this. It's freaking me the fuck out. Everything sounds good. Can you still hear me? Hello. You can still hear me now? Hello. Hello. Alright, so you can still hear me now. It's no longer cutting out. Seems to be fine. Okay, I had my mic routed through my audio somehow, and it was just like kept every time I would speak, I could hear it echoing in my headset. But I changed the routing, and it seems to be fine now. So Good. Wasn't too much of a problem. Cool. Okay, so sorry. So I can't remember where I copied it from, but whatever source it was, the way they do elf names is they don't have a first name and a last name. Usually they have one name and it's a combination of their own unique prefix and then like the house or something as the suffix. So like Caladria Dryer is meant to be like her house name, and Andril is for Andril's house name. And so they have their own unique prefix or name at the front of it. That's kind of like the idea I went with. I don't think as some of the other characters, I don't even remember where I got the names from. Like Elvo, I don't know where the fuck I got that name from. Albus, I think it was just like a generic Old English kind of name, a Welsh kind of name or something, Germanic. I don't know, something like that. Kind of like, oh, that's cool. Although Elbus does have a last name, his last name is Dryhand, which is like a little spin on the Zweihander, kind of joke there. Like Zweihander means two-hander, I'm pretty sure in German. So the idea is like dry hand means three hand, like, big dick need three hands. That's kind of like the joke there. And then obviously Brian Smallwood, what Smallwood, small dick, pretty simple. Um, what other character names were there? Adena just came up with that randomly. Albus, Elvo, Elise Wynn. Pretty sure it was the name of like a Win is the name of a WoW character. Cladria, Crowley. I think it's just. Well, actually, Crowley kind of like came up with that from the Crowley guy from Supernatural. Well, Alistair Crowley. Oh, there you go. That's what it's from. Alistair Crowley. Darius. I think so. In one iteration of the project, Darius and Varric were like brothers, and Varric was originally like meant to be Warwick, but I ended up changing to Varric. Like, obviously, this is because I play League of Legends, don't I? So you had Darius and Warwick from League of Legends. So that's kind of where the Darius came from. And then Warwick was going to be his brother, and then somehow Warwick became Varric. And then when I was kind of like deciding on what Darius's race was meant to be, like the Akari, what they were about, kind of dawned on me that Darius is also a bit of like a ancient Greek or Persian name or something, Persian origin. Kind of fit with what the kind of like theme I was going for, so that kind of worked out. Embria is just Ember, with like just dragged out, because like she's a blacksmith, she deals with like the anvil and all that kind of shit, and heating embers to melt steel. It is Persian. Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't 100% sure. Envy is naturally just Envy, although Envy's actual name is Noita, which I'm pretty sure means small witch, so that kind of suits her. Esther should be renamed, because that's Estelle now. Renfrey, the artist actually came up with the name Renfrey, and pretty much that character. I think he said it was like it's it's kind of a name. It's a name from a character in Game of Thrones. Roland was the name of a character in a Chinese light novel I had read that did have European ambience to it. They did like old English type thing. That was interesting. Saphira, we went over. Skink is just a derogatory name. Because obviously there's meant to be like racism against the lizard people. She has her own name. It's like, so the idea is the lizard people have their own language and names and stuff, and their names are very long. I'm trying to remember what it is off the top of my head. I can't fucking remember what her name is. It's really fucking long. It's like a long-sounding name, but it's meant to sound like refined. No, it's not Welsh. I would have to dig it out. But then the idea is that once they're enslaved, they're kind of given like derogatory, like lizard, frog, gecko, snake-related names. Like naturally, she's called Skink. That was like her slave name. There's meant to be like a lizard man or a Scalen. Well, the Scalen's the in-game race. Otherwise, it's lizard people. There's like a Scalen god called Croak or something. Like this, like yeah, that kind of shit. They're like the race that gets enslaved a lot by other races to use as like alchemy equipment, basically. Look after alchemy gardens, specifically like fire-related herbs and stuff, because they have a lot of fire resistance built into them. Zakarad was like similar, coming up similar, and trying to because Darius. I kind of went with Darius for Darius's name. So when it came to the other Akari people, I kind of wanted to stick with the same kind of theme. So I think Zakarad is like a bastardization of like a Persian, um, some famous person from Persian history. Kind of like just messing with the letters a bit to make it a bit more unique. You got Zakarad, you got Ashazan, and you got Bodhi or Bardi as his two other followers. Probably should make a note for those. Ashazan and Bardi. Just so I have the character names there. I kind of want to find Skink's name now. Just give me 1 second. Well, I'll be right back. Let me see if I can find the name. Randril Skink. Oh, here's her name. I think there was a Persian king named Darius the Great. Yeah, there was a few Darius kings, I'm pretty sure. I know there's a Darius II. Yeah, I know there's a Darius II. As for a Zakarad, I don't know if that's a real name or I just changed the letters around a little bit. But Skink's actual name is meant to be Roaninf. Roaninf. I forgot how I was meant to pronounce it. But that was meant to be like her own name before she was given a slave name. So yeah. I tried to be unique with the character names, but I'm not very good when it comes to coming up with names for characters. Not original ones anyway. I usually have to like bastardize something else. This is namings for places, people, item. This is not my forte. Coming up with names. Swandal's trumpet symbolically represents divine world spirit, and from these three emanations, where am I here? Okay, so the idea is that so you have 24 runes that are divided into 3 alphabets. Each alphabet is made up of 8. You also have another thing in Norse mythology called wells. There's 3 special wells that nourish Yggdrasil. So that kind of like overlaps with basically the 3 special entities again, dividing from the 1 to the 2 to the 3. So the idea was each one of the 3 it basically represents heaven or divine, one represents world or universe, and one represents spirit or human. And I also want to have a 4th hidden, like a 4th secret um, alphabet or well, basically. And the idea is that one represents destruction or like the end of the universe. And also the one that set in motion the basically sets the story in motion, basically. Because the way I'm kind of like imagining this on like the cosmic level, is that you have the original creator, right? Like basically the Lovecraftian god entity that created the universe. It's effectively like a gigantic moth slash butterfly thing. And the idea is that every time it basically breaks out of its shell and its wings are like together, it opens its wings. And when it opens its wings, it creates the universe. And its wings would keep opening until they reach to their, I forgot the word, but basically where they reach their lowest point. And then the wings come back up and touch again. So a cycle of the universe is from when the wings first open, go all the way down, and then come back up and touch. And when they touch again, that's when the universe ends. And then the Aemoth, the original creator, goes back into the cocoon, and the cycle starts again. So that's kind of like what's been going on forever in time. And the idea is that the 3 entities, or the Numenarchs, which is basically my name for like Lovecraftian outer gods or great old ones, they have a way of not necessarily surviving, but able to keep themselves. They can follow the original creator into the next Kepler or Kalpa, the next creation of the universe, and retain their mind. And the idea is that some of them don't want to continue the cycle, so they plan to stop the original creator, and that results in like basically putting the original creator into an eternal sleep, in a state of not really alive, not really dead, and the universe is kind of like stagnant. And that's kind of like how things start to progress. Like humans come along, the races come along, other races come along. That the world's like in a bit of like stasis. But this fourth entity, if it was able to collect itself, would forcefully reset the universe. Basically, it's like a backup plan almost. That's kind of like what I'm trying to work a way of writing. Skink sounds like a very old Scottish, Irish, kind of Gaelic. That could be true. I kind of just I kind of just came up with it because it's a name of like a type of lizard or something. And I kind of thought that might be the angle to go, where all the humans just kind of like give them derogatory names after lizards or uh, like lizards or um, frogs and stuff like that, instead of using their real names. Skink. Oh well, skink is just the name of a reptile. There you go. Okay, so continue with this then. Where am I here? Okay. Um, so the All Divine is meant to represent the achromic immaterial. Um, Achromic means nothing except for black, white, and grey. Monochromic means one color. So I'm trying to think of how basically there needs to be three realities basically. You have the physical world, you have the astral world, you have the spirit world. So chromatic materia equals colorful material equals physical world reality. Physical world. You have achromic immateria equals colorless immaterial non-material spirit world. Monochromic. What is the difference between spiritual and astral world? Um, the way I was kind of thinking of dividing it is that basically the spirit world would be basically like where like ghosts and spirits and souls and stuff end up, and you would also just have like creatures that can like just live in that world. And my thought was the astral world is more like a fundamental like workshop of like basically where concepts are created and spawned, and like it's kind of like the primordial soup, but for like the actual concepts of the universe. But I'm wondering if maybe it would be better to instead of like having to separate every different dimension out individually, a chromic immateria could kind of just mean like all of the alternate realities, and from all those alternate realities, you could just have different sub realities, like the painted world or the mirror world or whatever. They would just all kind of exist in different layers in the achromic immateria or the astral world. I guess the reason I was trying to force three is because I kind of felt like each of the three entities should be kind of like on equal power, should have control or influence over a different aspect of reality. I had a better description of these places somewhere. So the astral world is like a white canvas where concepts are created and go to the spiritual world and physical world. You could say it like that, yeah. Like the way I picture it in my mind is the astral world is like this, like yeah, basically like a blank canvas, and you have like all these different like basically like you have different neurons or electrons or whatever the fuck, basically like firing back and forth all over the place, running into each other, and each time they run into each other, like they spark, and a new concept could be born, and by these concepts like running into these new greater whatever they are constantly running forth back into each other would create bigger and more like it's tested. It's past one round, and then it goes off to face off against another, and then like maybe it loses, maybe it wins, and eventually these concepts, once they go back and forth firing against each other, build up enough tangibility and like they've been tested against others they would become more like more real, and once they're real enough, they would naturally progress into the other like like basically like a bunch of balloons with full of hot air. Like they rise out of the astral domain into the rest of the domains or the rest of the worlds. It's like it's meant to be like a very abstract kind of place. Because it's basically like a bunch of embryonic concepts that either don't exist yet or are in the process of existing before they before they like the universe or the world basically embraces them. Sorry, I'm just gonna think in my head for a second. Um, I really don't want to listen to this fucking song again. Jesus Christ. Don't mind the song, but I've listened to it too many times. That was kind of how I tried to like think of I had like a paint analogy for the different concepts before. Um, where like basically you ultimately have the four wrong window. You ultimately have the four different realities or different aspects of reality. One would represent the easel or the canvas. One would represent the paint. One would represent the painter, and then one would be like the eraser. And those four would kind of like be the main four. Well, everything really comes from those four. Where are my other versions of this? Runes. Don't need academies. And split the void. Fuck me. I don't want to do that. Chromatic materia. um, Old divine. Vernia. Pathways. Laws. Runes. Bunch of random gibberish. So I had the chromatic materia, which is the real world. I had the achromatic immateria, which is a collection of non-Euclidean hyperdimensions that underlie the universe that mirrors real materia. So I kind of like I had a version where basically you only had the chromatic, which is the real world, and you had the achromatic, which is like the metaphysical world. And the metaphysical world was made up of 7 different dimensions. You had Australis, the white divine, which would be the astral world. You had Animus, the grey divine, which would be the spirit world. Morstasis, the black divine, which is like the netherworld, and so on. Maybe that would be a better way of doing it. Where basically the achromatic immaterial is like just basically the collection of all of the various different types of metaphysical worlds and layers there are. Um, Nothing there. That's just runes. That's the same shit again. But yeah, the spirit world is also meant to be like, especially the spirit world is like also collects like information and like it's basically all of history, past, present, future. I kind of visualize the spirit world as like basically a giant fucking washing machine of like all these spirits like swirling around in circles, and each time they like do a loop, a little bit more of them, they lose a bit more of themselves, and they kind of like become like just pure information, basically, with their personality and themselves um, removed. And the reason I wanted to do that kind of angle is because the idea was going to be that eventually a god would come along that would want to make like an actual underworld where people retain their themselves, and it would be like stapled onto the animus, which would mean that people can retain their like there's a proper netherworld or hell. People can retain who they are after death, which would also give way to the rise of like people coming back from the dead and like ghosts and zombies and stuff like that being possible because of that happening. But that was like kind of like just random shit I was thinking about. Oh, I even fucking already worded it. So the Black Divine is a hyperdimension created by a Numenarch of the Death Numinous Pathway by borrowing the authority of the Death Pathway Sapphira. Call a Numenarch. Numira now. They created 6 rivers flowing from the spirit world, spiraling towards a merging point to form the netherworld. This realm serves as a final abode for all spirits, where they are not stripped of their anima, or their what makes them them, and they're able to go through the process of reincarnation. Yeah. I think I prefer that angle. I did have a version somewhere that delved into the monochromic angle. I think I called it dichromic something. I forgot what the fuck I called it. I think I prefer that angle. You just have the two. Basically, you have physical world, astral world. And instead of the supernal triumvirate, instead of them each 100% owning one of the 3 aspects of reality, it's more like they just have vast control over an aspect of reality. That's probably a better way of dealing with it. So let's just continue. Let's go back to how I had this. Okay, so separation of matter. This even makes the union between the 2 cosmic emanations split matter into multiple realities. The chromatic materia and the achromic immateria. The separation of matter gives rise to the supernal triumvirate, the Numenarchs, the all divine, the primordial deity where the numerous heavens, and the goddess of origin. The supernal triumvirate, which should be highlighted here. Good. Symbolically represents divine, world, and spirit, and from these 3 emanate the outer Numenarchs, each embodying a divine concept, a pathway to the divine. So, if I go along with this theory, this structure, so basically you have the original creator that represents all 24, not necessarily split into 12, 12 at order and yang, but by the time the supernal triumvirate comes along, the 24 are then broken into 3 eights. And then from the 3 eights, they're divided into individuals, so then 24, making up the outer Numenarchs. Among all pathways, the divine I feel like there should be. Is there a different word for divine? Because divine, because I'm kind of thinking of it. It's not just necessarily about this one particular world. It's like the universal level. So maybe like cosmos or universe. It's the universe doesn't seem right though. I guess Earth could work because Earth kind of like represents planets. And spirit. Maybe that works. I mean, I guess, okay, so this ultimately is divine. So basically, divine earth and spirit, which is basically like divinity, the physical world, and the inhabitants of it. That's kind of like what I'm trying to. Maybe a similar word to divine would be celestial, ethereal. I guess what I'm trying to symbolize here is, so in Buddhism, you got heaven, earth, and heaven, earth, and man, which is basically the divine, like the realm of the gods. You have the realm of physical reality, like the world, planets, asteroids, the physical reality, and then you have like man, or in my case, spirit, that makes up like the sentient creatures that inhabit those worlds. Nature, matter, terror. Celestial, ethereal. I don't mind divine. I'm just thinking of the better word for earth. Before I had it as world. I'll just leave it as world for now, and then maybe we can come back to it. Divine, world, spirit. Outer Numenarchs. So, this is obviously very much borrowing from copying, borrowing from Lovecraft. How in Lovecraft you have like the great old ones, like Cthulhu and all that kind of stuff, or Asimov. You have like the idea of the elder. They're like the elder. There's like an inner faction and an outer faction. I can't remember exactly how what it's called, but I'm kind of borrowing that idea. So in this setting, instead of like great old ones or gods, they're called Numenarchs. Numen, I think, means like divine or power, and then arch means like ruler or like absolute control. Like the idea is like you have absolute control over a power or that concept or whatever it is. It's kind of what I'm trying to get across. And there's a reason they're called outer. The idea is that when the original creator kind of like goes into his like eternal sleep, and like he's basically like he's dead, but I mean he's the original creator of the universe. He can't really die, but for all intent, but he is basically dead. And his body is kind of like his corpse or body is kind of acting as like a shield around the planet, and it's stopping the outer Numenarchs from being able to get into the world and destroy it. So that's why they're called the outer Numenarchs, because they're outside the barrier, basically. Among all pathways, the divine world and spirit. Spirit paths stand above the rest. They are the three tonal thrones, also known as the pillars of origin. So you have the three, and the three separate into 8 each, right? But the initial path that represented them is like meant to be like a pillar, or bringing it back to the Norse mythology. There's three wells, so they're one of the three. Each of the three paths is one of the three wells, and they symbolically kind of like have a place at the top of the hierarchy. So even if there's other, like a different Numenarch that has like, I don't even know how to fucking explain this. I think on like conceptual level, that is kind of like they're a level above, basically, because of what they represent, what the symbology is, and their authority. Um, the original creator enters a deep slumber at the heart of the world. Enter, which is the name of the world the game takes place in, and begins the cycle of a new Kelper, one that shall last until his wings once furl once more. So this is going back to like the cycle that if you imagine the original creator, like the universe is basically inside the original creator that is effectively a giant moth or butterfly. And each time his wings open up for the first time and begin to separate, that's the start of that's the creation of the universe. The universe is existing, and when his wings go right down as far as low as they can go and come back up and touch again is when the universe ends. And then when he opens his wings again, the cycle begins again. That's kind of like what's going on. So each like one Kelpa or one cycle of the universe is from his wings opening, going down as low as they can go, and then back up and touching again. Which naturally, for a creature of his size, takes like billions of years. So it's not like this is a short time period between Kelpas. Um, the Numenarchs become active throughout the universe. Oops. Throughout the universe, a handful, including Paul Divine and luminous heavens, are active on Enter. Did I already say Enter somewhere? Enter, yeah. Um, I I went out of my way to not play this song, and I ended up playing again. I really fucking hate how YouTube makes playlists these days. It used to be the case, like YouTube used to be so good years ago. You could just pick a song you liked, and it would just autoplay random shit that sounded similar. Whereas nowadays, once it's played like 5 or 6 songs, it forces you into a playlist, and you're just stuck listening to the same 10 songs on repeat forever. So annoying, man. Alright, I found some random 2 hour cyberpunk lo-fi playlist. If anyone has any music suggestions, I'm always open to ideas. Listen to pretty much anything. Um, So the Numenarchs become active throughout the universe, handful including the All Divine, blah blah blah. Active on answer. What is my favorite music genre? Um, I like quite a lot of different things. I kind of go through phases. Like I'll listen to one thing over and over and over again on repeat forever until I get completely bored of it, and then I'll find something else. So like I was listening to rap for a while, kind of got bored of that. Started listening back to like Linkin Park and other like, I guess like punk and like EDM and stuff like that for a while. And recently I was kind of like back listening to Amon Amarth and power metal or power wolf and power metal in general, like Iron Maiden, that kind of stuff. So I usually like go through phases, listening to different shit. I was actually listening to Freddie Mercury recently. Like that was like the last thing I was listening to. I was listening to there's like two Freddie Mercury songs. I forgot the name of them, but I listened to this. I listened to those two songs in a playlist on repeat for like a week straight, and now I'm completely over Queen. So I'm trying to find something new to listen to. Pretty much anything except for country. I never really got into country. There's some songs that are okay. Or like Twitch meme songs like Country Roads. But it's not a genre I go out of my way to listen to. You're familiar with Innuendo by Queen? We're about to find out. Oh, it's a music video. Just give me the fucking song. Possibly your favorite Queen song. Oh, the two Queen songs I was listening to was Scandal and I Want It All. I was listening to those two songs on a repeat for like the last week straight. This is a Queen song? This kind of sounds like some like song from like um Mana or some Final Fantasy game. Well, now not. Like those first like 30 seconds kind of sound like the opening to some Japanese JRPG game. In preparation for their... So I'm leaving a gap between these events, so there's a large gap between events here. I want to leave a gap for like maybe there's some stuff I could fill in there later. Because I don't want to like block out every possible thing now. But the idea is that the Numenarchs kind of like they're active in the universe, shit's going on, the Kalpa's progressing, and it comes time for them to start preparing for their from some. It becomes time for the Numenarchs to prepare for carrying themselves over to the next Kalpa, basically. Okay. I got Kelper written anywhere else? I do. Kelper. Um, just leave that there. I don't even like sitting that there, but I know it's there, so it's fine. And then came the cataclysm, erasing all. I can't spell. One second. I am back. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that Queen song was cool. I heard most of it. I was never like a, I would say, a big fan of Queen. Like if it was on the radio or whatever, I listened to it. But for whatever reason, I heard that I Wanted All song, or this song, and I like started listening to them again recently. Like within the last couple of weeks, actually. I feel like there's a lot of old bands I really need to kind of like catch up on that. For whatever reason, I never really gave a chance before. Yeah, so that's like that's like the end of like the first like age or whatever you want to call it. This is the other song, Scandal. I'll listen to these two songs on a repeat forever. Okay, so where am I now? So we got the first part out of the way. Basically, basically have a bunch of gods. You had a bunch of gods like running around the universe, and now they're like they were in hibernation, preparing for the end of the Kelpa or the universe, so they can safely traverse to the next one or plan their reincarnation for the next one. It's weird how sometimes you hear a song and it simply doesn't click with you at the time, but then you lay down the road and it blows you away. Oh yeah, that definitely, yeah. Well, there's like some songs that I actually like, where like I'll listen to the song and I like it enough, but I'm not really listening to the lyrics. I'm more like just listening to the beat or the rhythm, and then like 10 years later, I'll actually like, for whatever reason, I'll be in a place where I'm actually listening to the lyrics. It's like, oh, I actually like the song a whole lot more, or there's like a whole another level to the song to enjoy than I did previously. Recently happened to me with Typo Negative. Typo Negative. Kind of band are they? American Gothic metal band. So the next stage is meant to be where the Kelpa, the universe is beginning to end, and the idea is you have one of the gods doesn't want to keep repeating the cycle. He wants to end the cycle. And so he convinces a few of the other gods to help him, basically. So there kind of becomes a bit of like a civil war going on between the gods. The Numenarch, spurred on by a hidden force seeking to end the cycle of Kelpa, forcefully awaken the original creator. His body shatters into runes and countless divine paths. Runes from countless divine paths and Numira scattering across enter. This is the first time runes are mentioned. Cycle of Kelpa still should be highlighted. So the Numenarch, spurred on by hidden force, seeking to end the cycle of Kelpa, falsely awaken the original creator. His body shatters into runes from countless divine paths, and Numenara scattering across enter. So this is also borrowing a bit from the Jewish Kabbalah. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of these, but the Kabbalah is like an understanding of the pathway from the divine to mortals or whatever. So like there's like a 10 emanations of God or the Godhead to the physical world. And the idea is borrowing each of those 10 Numenara, or rather what I tied it to, which is Norse mythology, the 9 realms. So each of the 9 realms kind of like represents like a concept or a symbol, and like has a power associated with it. And so the idea is that there's the 20, so you got the 20, you have the 24 runes, and the idea is each rune is basically a pathway. So like the pathway of fire, or the pathway of ice, the pathway of lightning, the pathway of space, time, whatever it happens to be. Each of these pathways would have there's 9 ranks to go from like the weakest in this pathway to the strongest in this pathway, but there can only be one god of that pathway, basically, or Numenarch of that pathway. And to be the god of that pathway, you need to not only have the most knowledge and be the one pushing forward that pathway, you need to have the Numenara of that pathway. Each pathway has like a unique Numenara, or well from the Norse mythology, or Sephiroth from the Jewish Kabbalah, however the fuck you pronounce it. So, and then obviously, as I kind of spoke about before, there's like 3 special ones of all of the. So there's 9 wells or 9 Numenara, but there's 3 special ones that were owned by the original 3 emanations. So the idea is that when the original creator basically shatters or breaks apart, he forms like a singularity and sucks in all these different Numenara and runes from across the universe towards the planet. And it rips pieces of runes and Numenara from the Numenarchs that were already kind of like existing in states of hibernation, until it reaches like an equilibrium, which is 9 Numenara and 24 runes, which is it's 24 runes in the Norse mythology, and then there's the 9 realms in Norse mythology that are kind of like borrowing from. So that's like the equilibrium. Once that's reached, then the original creator kind of like goes back into a slumber, eternal slumber kind of thing. And his body is effectively like a big barrier around the world. And you have you have Numenarchs outside the barrier that had like they were ripped apart, wanting to come to the world to reclaim what was stolen from them, but they can't get through the barrier. So the idea is they're plotting and planning and like trying to like influence the world from the best they can outside, or through the runes and Numenara they had once had control of, to cause as much chaos as possible. Yeah. I'm fucking tired. So where are we here? Okay, so then Amira spurred on, getting across enter. The original creator's body becomes a space time singularity. His broken form draws to enter fragments of Amira and Rune fractals derived from the outer luminarchs, those once born of him. Once 9 Myra. Rune fractals derived from the 24 rune pathways gathered equal is achieved, was achieved. Word gathered? Word gathered. Keep messing with the different. I keep messing with the tense of what I'm writing. Okay, so the Numnarchs spurred on by Hidden Force, Cycle Kelper, original creator, but it shatters into runes, Numira, space-time singularity, Numira, rune fractals. Rune fractals are basically like incomplete runes, like the pieces that make up a rune. Out of Numenarchs. Minamara. So kind of like me kind of taking doing my own thing with the rune system. There's 24 runes, but 24 is kind of limiting, so I wanted there to be more. So kind of like borrowing from the idea of like tarot cards, how you have like the major arcana and the minor arcana. There's like the major arcana, majora runes paths, and there's the minora runes paths. Obviously, the majora rune paths will be stronger than the minora rune paths, but the minora rune paths are more plentiful and common. 56. So what did you say? I must say, Saphira might be my all-time favorite tomboy porn game. She's super hot but cute all the same time. Right up in the NTS route, we get some good romance villain moment for her. Yeah, I really am excited to develop her route and that. So I think there's a lot of. I think the routes we've come up with are pretty unique and interesting, and has a lot of potential. I like the kinky stuff in the game. The stuff is planned for the game, but I guess I'm still a vanilla. um, I think there has to. I kind of like the way I've kind of like approached it is there has to be some kind of like vanilla stuff at the start at least to kind of get the relationships going. In earlier versions of the game, it felt like there was too much going on at once. You were trying to introduce the main character, you're trying to introduce the previous main character, you're trying to introduce the heroine's relationship with the previous main characters, and then you're also trying to introduce or trying to like set up the protagonist's investment in the relationships and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of shit going on. Whereas in the new version, we kind of like tried to simplify that a little bit so that the player is more basically, rather than say simplify, I think it's rather more having more of the scenes happening in the present between the player and the characters, as opposed to relying on flashbacks or stuff that happened previously. So that way, the player is more immediately connected to the characters, and the heroines, and they're experiencing for themselves and not just being told what happened or having flashbacks. But I had planned for some vanilla S stuff here and there to help build up the relationships. Because to me, it makes more sense. You would have like basically, I guess it's basically like, would you if you fall from 10 feet, you're not really going to be as hurt as if you fall from 50 feet, right? So you need to build up the relationship first before you pull the ground out from underneath them, basically. Well, at least for the NTR route. The NTS route you can do some other different stuff with. Be back in a second. Yeah, I'm back. You mentioned we meant to take advantage of the heroines, and I suppose I need to move my chat window here. You mentioned we meant to take advantage of the heroines, and I suppose we take advantage of them from a position of trust. So maybe it isn't really far fetched to have some vanilla moments to build a trust. Yeah. I I think each heroine kind of has like something a little different going on in how the relationships are built. And so you have different opportunities to do different things. One of the things that happened in the past that I've kind of found a way to remedy is trying to figure out how to progress Brian and Saphira's relationship, because their personalities, maybe you could say this is from a lack of writing experience. Excuse me, knowing how to properly um pull off how their personalities were going. But I felt like NTR Brian was never ever going to do anything, and I felt like NTR Brian never felt like he was ever going to do anything, and it never felt like Saphira was ever going to do anything. Yeah, like two people where no one's really taking the first step forward to progress a relationship. and it was a bit of a challenge to like figure out how we were going to progress that. But we had a few different options now in how we can do that. One naturally, like the natural easy way would be you include the villain that kind of like takes charge of the direction, right? Sorry, I kind of just fucking like zoned out for a minute there. I'm just trying to think about like taking advantage of them from a position of trust. I wouldn't like. There's nothing really set up right now that to me kind of seems like it plays along with that. I guess you could include. I mean, I guess you could see the Saphira scene that just happened with the Akari dudes in the tavern could be kind of taking advantage of her trust in a way, considering you basically helped Drago a little. Or get her drunk a little, get her a little intoxicated. But yeah, there definitely has to be some kind of build up of the relationship before you can get like the real NTR stuff to start happening. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense, does it? And you also have to like, you can't just rely on stuff that happened in the past. You have to connect the player currently playing in the current story to the heroine and feel like there's a relationship there. You're not just relying on an existing relationship that happened, that was just mentioned. That was kind of like the challenge. The convergence drew many outer Numenarchs to enter, seeking to reclaim their lost Numira and runes, as well as others striving to seize more to expand their divinity. Yet, the lingering will of the original creator formed the cosmic barrier, the cosmic firmament, shielding the planet from them. Numenarchs, enter tomorrow, runes, divinity. Where are we here? Okay, so obstructed by the cosmic firmament, the outer Numenarchs bide their time, waiting for Amoth's will to weaken across the ages. Some probe the barrier from without, while those stripped of their Numira work from within, subtly influencing their lost fragments to erode the barrier from inside. Across the innumerable ages, the planet enter undergoes a great many changes, eventually reforming into 3 supercontinents, Netorare, Netorasr, and Netorare, alongside many scattered continents and isles. Enters a new age, the first age. Why do you just let me highlight this? Okay. So that's pretty much the dev of the creator section. First era, the age of madness. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that so far. I kind of imagine the world like in 3 stages. You have like the first stage where you have like basically just gods running around everywhere going crazy. And then they all kind of like disappear. Then you have like the age of the elves and all the various races dominating. And then you have the age of humans, where humans are the ones that dominate and take over most of the world. And that's kind of like... And so the game kind of takes place at like the twilight of the human supremacy, where the tides are beginning to shift towards a new dominance. It's kind of like where it's kind of heading. Ugh. But I might have to stop soonish. Try to get to the 3-hour mark at least, but I might stop after that and go have some lunch, and I got some other stuff I need to take care of. And I'll probably try to do another stream tonight. The lore is so deep that you can create a prequel sequel to the game inside the world for future projects. This, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've gone over the top, but it's kind of like this is how I am. But what I would like to do is effectively create a setting that could be used for other games and other projects. Even if it isn't like a direct sequel, including the same characters. You have like a lore and a setting that could be used for other characters, other stories, different times. Kind of like Elder Scrolls, you have different Elder Scrolls games, all taking place in the same universe, different time periods. That's kind of what I would like to do. So I can have like another game that's, maybe it is just a normal harem game where you're the protagonist that's got the big dick taking down all the neighborhood elfin girls, whatever. You can still use the same setting. Plus, I just like the idea of world building and lore building. That's what interests me. So I don't mind putting in the effort. And then hopefully other people can invest in interest in it as well. Just to clarify my point a little bit, I guess what I meant is that once the relationship has progressed enough with Safi, you can just get her to go and seduce a merchant to give a better price, knowing full well it's business. We know each other. We know we're meant for each other. And this is for the NTS route. Yeah, that's kind of like what I would like to do. The game has to be set up in a way to present opportunities to both routes. Like, for instance, I kind of thought that maybe... So basically, if you get a fight with bandits, right? Well, let's try this again. There's meant to be like an overworld when you're not inside one of the cities or interiors. And on the open world, you'll just have random other characters or bandits or creatures, just kind of like wandering around the map. And if you run into them, it could start like a special event, or it could be like just the bandits are going to like attack you. But you could talk to them first, and it might be the case you could give them money, or you could get Saphira to do something with them to get let off, basically. So like you have like those kind of things, and then depending on if you're going for the NTR route or the NTS route, obviously the dialogue and what kind of plays out will be a bit different. But setting up opportunities for stuff like that to happen. Another one would be I kind of wanted there to be town guards that you have the option of like stealing stuff, but if you get caught or if like you fight somebody like a drunk dude at the tavern, you get caught by the guards, you'll be sent to jail, sent to the garrison jail, and maybe Saphira would have to try to like persuade them to let you out if you can't afford it. And then yeah, also in battle, similar. You know, like get Saphira to like do stuff in battle to seduce them or distract them so you can get a sneak hidden or something. And then also there'll be times where because I want NPCs to work in a way similar to Elder Scrolls, how the NPCs aren't all going to have 3 stats, but the NPCs will typically have like I wouldn't say affection, more like a reputation, like some kind of like positive negative gauge where the more positive it is, the more they like you and talk to you and are willing to tell you things or help you with information or give you discounts, and the more negative is obviously the reverse. So the idea is there'll be points where you need to do a quest, you need like a particular item or particular piece of information from an NPC. The NPC is like neutral at the start or hates you, so you have to like get Saphira to seduce them to get the information or lower or increase their reputation so you can afford so you can get the discount to afford the item or whatever it is. So yeah, there has to be, I guess, trying to tie as much of like the story and gameplay stuff together as possible, like the karma system Fallout 3. Um, Karma system Fallout 3. I'm fucking tired. Sorry. I have played Fallout 3, but it's been such a long time. I don't remember how the karma system works. The Lone Wanderer begins the game with a value of 0, which can increase or decrease based on their actions. Get different karma titles. Effects. Good karma. So, if you have evil karma, certain groups will come and attack you. You get rewarded for enslaving certain NPCs. Maybe I guess technically it could be something similar. I honestly just haven't played Fallout 3 enough to remember how the system worked. I remember like if you shot like innocent people, it would be negative, but I can't remember what like I remember what causes negative and positive karma, but I don't quite remember what you can do with karma if you have it. Like if you have good karma or negative karma. But the idea would be that the reputation stuff is to the reputation is probably not a good word. Maybe it's likability because it's more to the each individual NPC. Just because like you get Saphira to like flash one NPC, it doesn't mean another NPC that didn't see that is gonna like you. So the idea is you have to do it this to the interactions are based on the individual NPC and their initial disposition. That's probably the word, isn't it? Disposition. Uh, Maybe not really. Disposition is more like on the person themselves, not. Well, I guess actually the way I would say it is each NPC would have like their own kind of like disposition, or like there'd be like I guess like some kind of archetype to NPCs. So some NPCs are like willing to trade more, are willing to like give favor for seeing Saphira flash them or something. Maybe you have like some weird NPCs that don't want to see any of that stuff and actually are offended by it. You get different dialogue options, certain characters based on karma, some followers are locked behind certain karma thresholds. I think that definitely would be the case that you would have options that are only unlocked once you've reached certain thresholds into... So basically, the idea is you have the NTR route or the NTS route. For simplicity, you're pretty much locked into one route or the other, because trying to code the game and have all the dialogue for being able to mix and match between the two is a fucking nightmare to sort out, and I don't know if it's really worth the effort. When it's better to just, like, from the start of the game, you pick which route you want to play. Because otherwise, yeah, it's just too complicated to be able to do all that. But the player, like how the heroine would have her 3 gauges of affection, lust, and corruption, the protagonist would have his own, like, immorality gauge. And so, like, as he gets further into the route, his immorality will go higher, which would allow him to unlock new options, basically. New ways of dealing with situations, or like getting Saphira to do stuff, or be willing to even think about getting Saphira to do something with a bandit or whatever. Speaking of NPCs, can let Saphira bang other NPCs regardless of route. Not just Saphira, maybe other heroine too. Well, that would be the, like what I just spoke about, how like the option, like the base system would exist, and then depending on the route, you would have a different flavor to it. But the idea is the system does exist. So the idea would be there would be like NPCs where you would have to do that stuff to like get information out of them. But then you could also just go up and do it to a random NPC if you really wanted to. Maybe you would get, maybe they would just give you random tidbits of information that might be useful or not. But the idea would be you would be immoral enough, and the heroine would be corrupt enough that you could just do it to any NPC. And yeah, I would like to get the other heroines involved. That's one of the things that are being worked on the new build, is a more adaptable combat system so that any heroine or other party members can be put in the party and stuff can happen. The only real restriction is the villain side of stuff, because the idea is each heroine has like a set villain to go with. So mixing villains might be a problem. It really will have to just like get to that point and then see how much of a problem it really is. It might be the case it's not a problem at all. It might be the case it is a problem, so if you have a heroine, you're restricted to the type of villain you can bring to the party. But you could probably bring in multiple heroines into the party. And you'll all have like some like little bit of dialogue to reflect what's happening in combat between the party members and the route. Yeah, I'm gonna head off soon. It's been 3 hours almost. Pretty cool. And I'll probably do like another stream later tonight for a little bit. Do you guys find the dialogue and world building stuff interesting? Like what I've been doing on stream today? Do you find that stuff interesting? Totally cool if you don't, because I understand not everyone's super interested in all that kind of stuff. Some people just like to the route based stuff, what's going on with the heroines and whatever, which makes sense. Absolutely, that's cool. Here's a question I could ask you guys that I asked last night. Which hair color do you guys think is better? Between option 1, 2, and 3 here. 1 is more like a dark base hair color that fades towards the like light neon green. You can't hear anything? Turn the music down a little bit. Can you still hear me? You can hear. Raggle can hear. Can you not hear me, Cubilet? Because it says my mic's working. Turn the music down slightly. All good. You can hear me now? Alright, I'll repeat what I just said then, just to make sure. So this is Envy, her map poses, or her busts that are being made. We're still deciding on the hair color, so I'm just curious what you guys think. So for 1, we have the dark black hair, or really, really dark hair with a green hue to it that fades to the more light neon green. 2 is more of like a silver base that fades to like the very much lighter neon green. And then 3 is just like a kind of like starts at green at the top and then still fades to the lighter neon green. Curious which of the 3 you think is best. This is for hair color, everything else is the same. One is my favorite, to be honest. I think I prefer 1. I think that's what we might go with. I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to go with. Just curious what other people thought. I think pretty much everyone said 1 or 2. Second one doesn't look bad, but it would look better if it was a different color than green. Oh, you mean the tips? Like the other end of the hair? Like if it went from like silver to something else? Someone also suggested if she had like a different outfit, like a dress or something, the silver could look good, which I kind of agree with. That was something I forgot to say the other day. So she's meant to have like a couple different outfits. Like obviously her base outfit is very much like the string tape bikini type thing from like that Fate character. Shoten Duji or whatever her name was. Shoten Doji, the name of the character. I can't show her on screen. She's not very safe for work. But kind of like copying her outfit idea, like as a base outfit. And then for when she like appears, and then the other outfit idea for when she like properly appears in the physical world is more like having a kind of like dress type thing, like the green-haired chick from One Punch Man, with the loose-fitting kind of like green robe. Not green, but like the loose-fitting black robe was kind of the thought for her alternative outfit. Yeah. Alright, guys, that's gonna be it for the end of this stream. First time streaming at such an early hour. Probably try to do more streams at different times to kind of like find a good time where everyone can view, the more people can view as possible. The VODs also get uploaded after the stream, so you can always check the VOD if you didn't miss the stream or miss part of it. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for the follows and subs. I really appreciate it. It all helps going towards development and promoting the project. And yeah, I'll try to stream tomorrow if I can, or I'll try to do a stream later tonight if I can. If not, tomorrow. Keep it going. And yeah, thanks for watching once again. Catch you guys later. Have a good evening.